ceramics mixed in there with dung, with human refuse, all deliberately put in there, not an accidental dung heap, but a place that human beings said, we're going to make this ground fertile, because rainforest soils are not particularly fertile. The fertility of the Amazon comes entirely from the fall of leaves onto the soil. It refertilizes itself. But to grow crops on the Amazon is a very different prospect. And this is where Terra preta really comes into its own. And I've been standing in a pit with an archaeologist there, a Terra preta pit, and you can see this beautiful, rich soil. And it is a mystery. It constantly replenishes itself. It never gets used up. Settlers seek out areas of Terra preta. And it fits with this notion that no longer a notion, it's a fact, that there was a population of millions in the Amazon 10,000 years ago. And they were living a highly productive, sophisticated life. They were using agriculture. They also gardened the Amazon. The hyperdominant trees in the Amazon are all food-bearing trees. The Brazil nut tree, for example, which is a huge, tall tree, is a food-bearing tree. And they exist in far greater numbers than they should do if they developed naturally. Humans manipulated the Amazon and made it serve human needs thousands and thousands of years ago. And then we have these enormous structures that are appearing in the Amazon, which are being referred to as geoglyphs. They call them geoglyphs after the Nazca lines, actually. The Nazca lines in Peru are huge ground images, sometimes geometrical in form, sometimes showing animals or birds or spiders, other creatures, often actually showing Amazonian animals. But in the Brazilian Amazon, in the state of Acre, as a result of clearances of the Amazon that have been done for farming purposes, there's this rush to just cut the Amazon down and replace it with cattle ranches and soybean farms. Those clearances have revealed something that, again, according to the old view of the Amazon, shouldn't be there, which is gigantic earthworks, huge ones, a bit like the henges in Europe, enormous embankments, ditches, and in geometrical forms. So you get enormous squares, enormous circles. You get a circle within a square. They keep repeating these geometrical images, and they're thousands of years old. When we were down there just recently, we had a local LiDAR guy working with us. These days, you don't have to even use an airplane to find things with LiDAR. You can fly LiDAR off a drone. Oh. And flying his drone within a mile of known structures that are outside the rainforest now, he found 2 more huge geoglyphs under the rainforest canopy, which will be investigated. And this is bizarre and puzzling. They reckon, the team working on this, that's Marty Parsonen of the University of Helsinki and Alceu Ranzi, who's a Brazilian archaeologist and geologist, they reckon that there's thousands of these things still under the rainforest canopy, and there's a huge untold story. So one of the places I would look for a lost civilization is the Amazon rainforest.
How do they know that the Terra preta replenishes itself? How does it do that?
It's something to do with microbes and bacteria that are in the soil. And they keep on regenerating. They don't get used up. It's a kind of miracle. It's not fully understood. Nobody can say they fully understand Terra preta. But what is fully understood, and it's understood by settlers, is that if they plant on Terra preta, they're going to get rich crops coming out of it.
Is there a way to reproduce that in America?
Attempts have been made to reproduce it, and biochar is one of the words that comes to mind. There's even indications that some of the modern indigenous peoples of the Amazon are still creating Terra preta. This is a whole mystery that needs to be investigated much further. We're looking at the oldest examples are more than 8,000 years old, and that's just in the areas that have been surveyed. Very likely Terra preta goes back much, much, much earlier than that.
Because it's such an issue with modern farmlands where they have to use these modern fertilizers. They have
which are not helpful in many ways.
And they run off. The topsoil's worn out.
Yeah.
And so if they could figure out a way to reproduce Terra preta.
This would be one of the many ways in which our so-called high-tech industrialized society could learn from indigenous cultures. We could learn a lot from them about living in harmony with the environment and about clever things like Terra preta, clever things like curare. which is another Amazonian invention, which is the basis of modern anesthesiology. How did they do that? There's 11 ingredients in curare, and those ingredients are not active on their own. You have to cook them all together to get this poison, which is a muscle relaxant. Why a muscle relaxant? Because if you're going to shoot a monkey 200 feet up a tree with your arrow, you don't want it coiling its tail around the tree when it dies. You want it to drop to the ground. Ayahuasca is another Amazonian invention, and again, it consists of several ingredients, two in particular, neither of which are active on their own, but which only work when cooked together. So what I see in the Amazon is traces of a lost science, a scientific mindset. Can I show some pictures of these geoglyphs?
Please.
We have to hook up the magical HDMI. And I'll just show a few slides of them. I forget which side the HDMI is in. I think it's in that side.
Careful with the water.
Yeah.
Got it?
Okay. Are we on screen?
We will be momentarily. Here we go.
Yeah, so this shows the Amazon, 6.7 million square kilometers. There's still 5.5 million left covered by rainforest. That's bigger than the entire subcontinent of India, and hardly any archaeology has been done. And the archaeology that is being done is fascinating. And it's particularly in the state of Acre, in the southwest of Brazil, that we're seeing these extraordinary geoglyphs. Now, I'm on the left there. That's Martti Parsanen from the University of Helsinki, and that is Fabio Filho, who's the LiDAR expert, and that's Alceu Ranzi, who's a Brazilian geographer and archaeologist. And we're looking at the latest LiDAR discoveries, and there I'm about to take off in a plane with these two guys. It was just incredible to fly over there. I've flown over the Nazca lines many times, but to fly over this and to see these huge earthworks on a scale of hundreds of meters sitting there, often encroached on by farms, was very, very, very exciting.
And what's the conventional explanation for these things?
There is no conventional explanation, because really it's only begun to be studied. Alceu first noticed them on an overflight more than 20 years ago, but it's only relatively recently that they've started to get the funding. And I want to pay tribute to Eugene Jong, who is a philanthropist, who has provided funding for these guys to continue their work, and who's also provided funding to the Comet Research Group, and who's also provided funding for the DMT research that's being done at UCSD.
What's his name?
Eugene Jong. He's a brilliant
Eugene
guy.
Jong.
J-H-O-N-G. He's a brilliant philanthropist, and he's so open-minded, and he's looking to support research in areas that the mainstream just won't touch.
Hey, woman, since your man ain't got no heart, what you going to our apartment tonight? I'll show you a real man.
There you go.
What? Fuck you. Hey, woman, since your man ain't got no heart, what you going to our apartment tonight? I'll show you a real man.
There you go.
What? Fuck you.